Rococo. Now, again, with this class, I do not emphasize dates for exams, or I don't test you on dates for exams, but I've given you the dates here just to kind of help frame it in the timeline of art history. So roughly 1750-ish to 1740 or 1774-ish. The reason that we have these rough dates is because they line up nicely with the reign of the French monarchy, beginning with the death of Louis. Yep, Sun King died. What? He died in 1715 at the age of 76. And when he died, the throne was inherited by Louis the 15th, this little 5-year-old boy. What? A 5-year-old takes the throne? Yeah. He's Louis's great, is it great grandson? Yeah. No, just one great. So Louis outlived his own son and his grandson. And so yes, Louis the 15th is Louis the 14th's great grandson. Now, obviously, people are not stupid enough to listen to the whims of a 5-year-old. So while little Louis grows up, there's going to be a regent in charge. His regent is his uncle, the Duke of Orleans. And so there's a power vacuum, basically. Things are continuing forward, but everything's a little bit on hold until the absolute monarch of Louis the 15th is of age, which is 18 years old. So now, using our imagination from last class, we are still part of the French aristocracy. We've been hanging out at Versailles 6 months out of the year, having to spend all of our time and all of our money and all of our energy and all of our attention on Louis the 14th. He dies, and we got this little 5-year-old who's been sent off to his room to go take a nap. What do? We flee Versailles. We get out of that stinky palace. Nobles are fleeing Versailles and the suffocating court life, and because the regent, the uncle, Duke of Orleans, he allows for this, people are returning to their own palaces. Oh, please, I don't want to be at Oh, sorry. Please, I don't want to be here at Versailles. I want to go home to my own chateau and my own palaces. These escapes are being taken place in these fantastic hotels and chateaus. So here, this is an image of an hotel, and I've given you a definition. Hotel has a little carrot top over the O. An hotel is not like, the Ritz-Carlton hotels. Hotel is a townhouse. Basically, it's a private mansion in the city. Now, if you were noble, you would have an hotel, obviously in Paris and maybe some of the other major cities in France. And you would also have your country estates, your chateaus, outside of the city. So your city house, big mansion, is your hotel. And I love this image here because you get to see the massive structure, this courtyard here, and then I'm going to have a stand here and look at this wall. What? This is inside of Paris. I mean, like, straight up inside Paris. So we were just standing in the courtyard. That's part of a gate that looks out into Paris. So you're walking the streets of Paris and you see these big fancy gates. Those are the giant carriage gates that lead into the courtyards for these hotels. Now, for us and the Rococo, this is where the Rococo happens. This is where it is established, because now, as the French nobility, we have all the power, all the money, and now we have all the time to use all of our power and our money to enjoy the previously absorbed time with Louis, now we get to enjoy ourselves. We have our the luxury of time, the luxury of money, luxury of space, and well, because we're not interested in relieving any of the burden with taxes or forced labor, we get to enjoy all these new luxuries of refurbishing our hotels or paying for new artworks, new statuary, new poetry, everything. And it's all happening in these private spaces. These hotels and our private time away from the king and those prying eyes allows us to experience more playfulness, more intrigue, more romance, more scandal. I love this painting here showing, it's called Blind Man's Bluff. We see this small room that people are inhabiting, and they're all just, so rich, so gorgeous, so happy. And the game in front of us is when a handsome young man is blindfolded, and then several beautiful young women will run around the room, and then he tries to grab or tries to grope for them, and then if he catches them, he gets to kiss them. Oh, right? It's just a playful, funny, flirtatious game. And look at this mom saying, "Okay, little girl, this is what happens." And it's just frivolity. It's just the joys and pleasures of the rich. Because honestly, why would they change that? With Louis the 14th, all of their energy was pushed onto him. And now that he's gone, they get to push it on each other. So what we see in the Rococo period is this increase of, like I said, playfulness, flirtation, intrigue, romance. There's a lot of eroticism, and it has to deal with the fact that we're all like rich and gorgeous and we have nothing to do. So of course we're just gonna like flirt and cheat on everybody and gossip about her and gossip about him and then like dress all cool and privileged. Also part of the Rococo, we start to see a different color palette. I love this family portrait here because it shows you in the Rococo, we start to see a color palette of pastels. So are you writing this down? So we have subject matter is more frivolous, flirtatious, erotic, playful. Did you write that down? Rewind it. Okay. And then another characteristic of the Rococo, pastel color palette. Soft blues and purples and greens and yellows and reds and pinks. Like this family portrait here. Ugh, this gorgeous, young, wealthy couple and all of their kids. Oh, they're just so fertile. And they have their African nanny because France at this time has expanded their empire into Africa. So it's all the rage to have a servant from Africa, and she's holding the baby. And look at the color palette here. Soft purples, powder blues, seafoam greens, pale yellows, soft. There's nothing big and bold. It's not intense like what we saw in the Baroque period, like saturated heavy forest greens and big blood reds and bright cobalt blues punching you in the face. No, it's butter yellows and blushing pinks. So even the color palette is so much more soft. We see, as I said, subject matter much more lighthearted than what we saw in the Baroque. Here's another genre scene like we've seen in the Baroque periods, but it's filled with all of these characteristics of the Rococo. Now, I'm going to pull back to this image to help illustrate that, but because we're here, I want to show off the luxuries that they're enjoying. So we see a family and they've gathered here for breakfast. We see it's a beautiful room. Look at these big windows. They must be rich if they have all of this clear glass and these big windows. And it's beautifully, elegantly decorated in the Rococo style. Look at that mirror. Ooh, we already know mirrors are crazy expensive. And then we have the kids joining the parents and the nursemaid for this What? What is this? Is this tea, Miss Cortez? Oh, no, no, no. This is France. This is not tea. This is coffee. The French are loving coffee. In fact, in the French West Indies, they have all of these coffee plantations, and they're sending back boatloads of coffee beans and sugar. Sugar, sugar, sugar. So remember, for the French, they are loving coffee, loving sugar, and it's coming in. They're making all of these fantastic pastries with it. This is extremely expensive, exotic food and beverage. So this right here is a very elaborate coffee serving um, uh, pitcher. And we would understand that that is filled with very expensive sugar. Mm. So rich, so lovely being rich in Rococo period. If you are a fan of music, it is during this time that we see the works of Mozart. Now, this is not a history of music class, but the kind of elegance and beauty and grace that we appreciate in Mozart, that is the Rococo. All of this talk, and I haven't even given you a definition for the term rococo. It comes from the French for rocaille, which is encrusted. Rococo is marked by also, in addition to subject matter of being very playful and erotic, and color palette of being pastels, Rococo is also motifs of arabesque and whiplash lines, sensuous curves, and lavish interiors. So here we're looking at a design piece for furniture embellishments, and you can see it's just over the top, these carvings, and these carvings show you these lines that twist and turn and peel around each other. They are everywhere, and this is why it's called Rococo, rocaille, encrusted. These elaborate motifs are done in expensive hand-carved wood that's painted gold, or it might be done in very delicate plaster work that again is painted gold, and they just crawl up the ceilings, up and around the paintings, down the door frames. It's in everything, in all types of an interior decoration. If you're interested in interior decoration, the Rococo is a style that is first established in interior design. And we're going to look at the room that establishes it. But here, when you have your encrusticated rooms, you need to fill it with encrusticated and decorated stuff. Like this is a potpourri holder. It's made out of porcelain, and it has a lid, and the lid is filled with these holes. Holes here allow for the sweet smelling, you see those holes there? The sweet smelling potpourri, the scented petals and leaves and bark and spices, to filter through the room, which is good because remember, we stink to high heaven. We don't like baths, and we have chamber pots in the room. We could talk more about porcelain. If you are interested in French porcelain or the history of Chinaware, please email me. I love it. We can't talk about it because I'm already running late. Here, this is a design for a carriage. And again, everything is just so elaborate, so decorative. Like, it doesn't need all of this flourishing, but it's here. Even the wheels have these elaborate, encrusticated motifs. And the motifs I'm talking about here, arabesque lines and whiplash lines. You might be asking, what's an arabesque line? Great question, student. An arabesque line is your next term, a sinuous, spiraling, undulating decorative motif. Here, this is an example of an arabesque line. You can make an arabesque line in various forms, like this. Do you see that? That's an arabesque line. Why? Because it is pushing out and collapsing in. It's pushing up. It's falling down all at the same time. So these arabesque lines are what is seen in a lot of Rococo artworks. If you've ever taken a ballet class, now I usually like to ask this in class, have any of you taken ballet? And then a few hands will raise. And then I'll say, you know of the arabesque position? The arabesque position in ballet is called that because the body is doing the same thing as the line. It's pushing back and it's pushing forward, it's pushing down and pulling up all at the same time. The term arabesque, it's French, and it means Arab-like. And the reason is because the French, well, I told you, they had started some colonies in Africa, and in those colonies, bringing back all of these fantastic goods, many of which were heavily influenced by Islamic art. And Islamic art has these fantastic lines that move and turn, right? Think of calligraphy. And so the French were like, oh, these beautiful lines, they all come from Arabia. They're Arabesque. So it's not necessarily a politically correct term, but Arab-like, Arabesque, just means these soft, turning, undulating forms. Here, just to heavily emphasize that these are seen everywhere, these are some pieces of furniture. So in your elaborate Rococo rooms, you would also have then Rococo furniture, and it would be covered in arabesque encrusticated shapes. A lot of times it takes on the shape of like foliage, so it looks like leaves. So it has a very organic look to it. This almost reminds me of seaweed. And this is extremely expensive material. So not only do we have the gold painted, probably iron or, bronze pieces here that have been set into the wood, but this is exotic wood. And then a very heavy, expensive marble tabletop. Look at these chairs. Every single detail is to give you this frivolous, moving, undulating line. Back to the subject matter, but also to show you in painting. Look at the rooms filled with these Rococo-like elements. And then, because I said I would, let's go back to our coffee. Do you see? Look at these. The mirrors, the candles, that clock. Oh, so much gorgeous arabesque lines. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Let me see. Is there anything else? So with that, and I've been teasing it this entire time, the interior design establishes the Rococo style, and it's established in this room, the Salon de la Princesse, and that is going to be our next video.